Hey everyone, ready to dive into some seriously cool stuff?
Let's do it.
All right, so today we're cracking open this awesome source, Cracking the Corporate Code.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one.
It's basically like your cheat sheet for navigating the corporate world, figuring out how to not just get a job, but like land one that actually makes you want to jump out of bed in the morning.
Totally. And not just any job, but a job that's going to be around for a while.
Future-proof, right.
Exactly, because the job market, it's changing like crazy.
So where do we even begin? I mean, what industries should we be looking at?
Well, cracking the corporate code points to a few big ones.
Hit me with them.
Tech is obviously huge,
Right.
especially anything AI or cloud computing related.
Yeah, that makes sense. Everyone's talking about AI these days.
For good reason. We're talking like 15-20% growth in those fields over the next few years.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, it's a lot. But it's not all about tech, though. Sustainability and healthcare, those are booming too.
Okay, so green energy, e-commerce, health tech.
You got it. Lots of options. But the thing is, with all these booming industries comes a ton of competition.
Especially with global talent pool, right? It's like everyone's vying for the same spots.
Yeah. So how do you make yourself stand out? That's where cracking the corporate code really gets interesting.
Lay it on me.
So they talk about this idea of like a double whammy. You got to have hard skills.
Like the technical stuff?
Yeah, like knowing how to analyze data, code in Python, or having certifications like a project management certification.
Right. I've actually been thinking about taking some online courses to brush up on some of that stuff.
Smart move. There are some amazing platforms out there these days like Coursera and LinkedIn Learning.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of those.
But it's not just about the hard skills. Soft skills are just as important.
Soft skills? What do you mean by that?
Think like how you communicate, how adaptable you are, how you work in a team.
Oh, okay, like the people skills.
Exactly. Companies want people who can not only do the job, but also thrive in a fast-paced, constantly changing environment.
Makes sense. And then there's the whole AI thing, right? I've heard horror stories about those applicant tracking systems.
Love ATS.
Yeah, those. Are they really as scary as people say?
They can be tricky. Basically, these systems scan your resume for keywords that match the job description.
So it's like a robot deciding whether you're worthy or not.
Kind of, yeah. But here's the thing. Cracking the corporate code gives some good tips on how to play the game.
Tell me everything.
It's not just about stuffing your resume with every buzzword you can think of. You have to really analyze the job description, see what they're actually looking for, and then use those exact phrases and keywords in your resume.
So it's like being strategic, but in a genuine way.
Exactly. And your cover letter, too, really focus on how your skills directly address the company's needs and problems.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, so resumes and cover letters, check. What else?
Well, this is where things get interesting. Cracking the corporate code talks about something called the hidden job market.
The hidden job market? What's that?
Apparently, over 70% of jobs are never actually advertised publicly.
Wait, seriously, over 70%? That's crazy.
Oh, right. So it's like this whole secret world of job opportunities that most people don't even know about.
So how do you tap into this secret world?
Networking.
Ugh, networking. Is there any way around it?
I mean, it's not everyone's favorite thing, but it's honestly the most effective way to unlock those hidden opportunities. Referrals, word-of-mouth connections, reaching out directly to companies. That's how you get your foot in the door.
Okay, so not just those awkward networking events.
Those can be helpful, but it's more about building genuine relationships, staying in touch, offering value to your connections. It's a long game, not a quick fix.
Gotcha. So where do you even start?
Platforms like LinkedIn, Glassdoor, and Indeed are still good places to start.
Yeah, I use those all the time.
But don't be afraid to think outside the box, too. Industry events, professional organizations, informational interviews. You never know what doors might open just by striking up a conversation.
True. And I remember reading that referrals, they actually increased your chances of getting hired by like 4 times.
That's a huge advantage, right?
Yeah.
And referrals work because there's already a level of trust built in.
Okay, so networking is key. But before you even start networking or sending out those resumes,
you need to make sure your online presence is on point.
Right. Let's talk about the big one, LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, LinkedIn. Think of it as your digital resume, but like on steroids.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me the lowdown on how to make my profile really stand out.
First things first, ditch the blurry selfie.
Oh, you mean the one from my last vacation?
Yeah, that one. Invest in a professional headshot. It makes a huge difference.
Okay, noted. Professional headshot, check. What else?
Your headline. Make it count. Highlight what makes you unique, what you bring to the table.
And the summary.
That's your chance to tell your professional story. Keep it engaging, keep it authentic. And don't forget the featured section. That's where you showcase your best work, your achievements, your projects.
Okay, so like instead of just saying seeking opportunities.
You could say something like, experienced marketing strategist specializing in data-driven campaigns.
Ooh, I like that. Specific, results-oriented.
Exactly. And speaking of showcasing your work, let's not forget about the power of a portfolio.
You mean like a website or something?
It can be a website, but it doesn't have to be. It really depends on your field.
So what would a portfolio look like for someone who's not in a creative field, like a designer or a writer?
Great question. It can be anything that demonstrates your skills in action. Case studies, reports, presentations, even code repositories if you're in tech.
Oh, okay, so it's about providing concrete examples of what you can do.
Exactly. And then there's this whole thought leadership thing.
Yeah, that's a buzzword I hear all the time. What does it actually mean, though?
It's about sharing your knowledge, engaging in industry conversations.
Like being active on LinkedIn?
That's one way to do it. Writing articles, sharing insights, commenting thoughtfully on other people's posts. It's about demonstrating your expertise and passion for what you do.
So it's not just about what you know, but how you share it and engage with others.
Exactly. And that actually ties in perfectly with networking.
Oh, I see.
A strong online presence, it makes your networking efforts that much more effective.
So when someone checks you out on LinkedIn,
They're already impressed by your expertise and your insights.
then that makes them more likely to want to connect with you.
Exactly. So even if you're not a fan of those big networking events,
There are still ways to build genuine connections.
for sure, platforms like Meetup and Eventbrite are great for finding industry-specific events. And don't forget about local professional organizations and alumni groups.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
The key is to approach these events with a genuine desire to connect, not just collect business cards.
Quality over quantity.
Exactly. And remember, networking isn't a one-and-done thing.
You have to nurture those relationships over time.
Stay in touch, share updates, congratulate people on their achievements. Think of it like tending a garden.
I like that analogy. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground so far. Building our online presence, navigating the hidden job market, crafting killer resumes and cover letters.
We've laid the foundation.
But now let's talk about the main event, the interview. Any tips for making those less terrifying and more, human?
Well, they don't have to be terrifying. Think of them more like a conversation.
Easier said than done when you're in the hot seat.
Oh, for sure. But seriously, the key is preparation. And I'm not just talking about knowing your resume inside and out.
Okay, so what kind of preparation are we talking about?
You need to research the company like it's your new obsession. Their mission, their values, recent news, even their social media. The more you know, the more confident you'll feel.
Okay, so like stalking but for jobs?
Basically, you want to show that you're genuinely interested and you've done your homework. And when it comes to those dreaded behavioral questions,
Ugh, the ones that start with, tell me about a time when...
yes, those. The STAR method can be a lifesaver.
Oh, I've heard of that. But can you refresh my memory? What does STAR stand for again?
Situation, task, action, result. It's a framework for structuring your answers so you're not just rambling.
Okay, so how does that work in practice?
So let's say they ask you about a time you had to deal with a difficult client.
Oh, I've definitely got a few stories about that.
First, you describe the situation, then the task you were responsible for, the action you took, and finally, the result.
So it's like telling a mini story with a clear beginning, middle, and end.
Exactly. And it helps you showcase your skills and experience in a way that's structured and memorable.
Nice, that makes sense. Now, what about all those nonverbal cues, especially with so many interviews happening virtually these days? Do things like body language and eye contact still matter when you're just a face on a screen?
Oh, they absolutely matter. You might not be shaking hands across a table, but how you present yourself still makes a huge impact.
So what, like good posture, smiling?
Yes. Sit up straight, make eye contact with the camera, speak clearly and confidently, and for goodness sake, make sure your technology is working properly.
Oh, that's a good point. Nothing worse than a glitchy video call.
Right, and make sure the background is clutter-free. You want the focus to be on you, not your laundry pile.
Got it. And I once heard a tip about putting Post-it notes with key points around your camera so you can glance at them without looking down too much.
Oh, I love that. It's like having your own little teleprompter. It helps you stay engaged and maintain that all-important eye contact.
Okay, so we've covered company research, the STAR method, even virtual interview etiquette. But now, for the topic that makes everyone squirm, salary negotiations.
The dreaded salary talk. But, it doesn't have to be dreaded. Think of it as an opportunity to advocate for yourself.
I like that reframing. But how do you even approach that conversation without feeling awkward or greedy?
It all comes down to preparation. Before you even step into the negotiation, you need to do your research.
Research? What kind of research?
Look at websites like Glassdoor and PayScale to see what other people in similar roles are making.
Oh, so you know what you're worth.
Exactly. And don't just focus on the base salary. Consider the whole package. Benefits, bonuses, potential for growth.
Right, the bigger picture. Okay, so let's say you get the offer. How do you actually bring up the salary conversation?
Start by expressing gratitude for the offer.
Okay, so thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yes. And then you can say something like, based on my experience and the market value for this role, I was hoping for a salary closer to your desired range.
Oh, that sounds professional and assertive.
It's about being confident and advocating for yourself. And remember, negotiation isn't just about salary.
What else can you negotiate?
You can negotiate things like flexible work arrangements, professional development budgets, additional PTO, even things like working from home a few days a week.
Wow, I never thought about that. It's like negotiation is about creating a work environment that really works for you.
Exactly. It's about finding a win-win situation for you and the company.
I'm loving this. We've covered so much ground already, and I'm feeling way more confident about navigating this whole corporate thing.
I'm glad to hear that.
But wait a sec, we're not done yet. There's still so much more to unpack about what happens once you actually land that job.
Oh, the journey's just beginning.
So after a quick break, we'll be back to dive into the wild world of office politics, mentorship, and how to actually thrive in that sometimes crazy corporate ecosystem. Stay tuned.
Okay, so we're back and ready to dive even deeper into this corporate jungle, armed with all the knowledge from cracking the corporate code.
Yeah, we've tackled the job search. Now it's time to figure out how to actually thrive once you're in.
Right, like you've got the job, you're in the door, but now you've got to navigate this whole other world.
Exactly. And that's where things can get a little tricky.
Especially when it comes to office politics. It's like everyone's talking about it, but no one really wants to explain what it is.
It can feel like this big mystery, right?
Totally. So how do we decode this mysterious code of office politics? Well, cracking the corporate code has some interesting thoughts on this. It's all about observation, strategy, and being smart about how you handle things.
Okay, so it's like we're detectives.
Kinda, yeah. You gotta observe the company culture, see how people communicate, how decisions are made, who the key players are.
It's like we're anthropologists studying a new tribe.
I like that. You're totally getting it.
Yeah.
Once you understand the unwritten rules, you can navigate them more effectively.
Okay, so observe, understand, and then
Build relationships. Connect with people from different departments, go to company events, volunteer for projects, show that you're a team player.
So it's not just about doing your job well, it's about being part of the team.
Exactly. And how you communicate, that plays a big role too. Be professional, respectful, clear. Avoid the gossip and negativity.
Right, no drama. But what about when conflict does arise? Because let's be honest, it's going to happen at some point.
Oh, for sure, conflict's inevitable.
Yeah.
But the key is to handle it constructively. Listen to the other person, try to find common ground, focus on solutions.
And if you can't resolve it on your own,
Don't be afraid to ask for help. Talk to your manager or HR. They're there to support you.
that's good to remember. Okay, so we've got the office politics thing down. Now, what about mentorship? Cracking the corporate code talks a lot about how important that is.
Oh yeah, a good mentor can make all the difference in your career. It's like having a personal guide through the corporate jungle.
So how do you even find a mentor? Do you just walk up to someone and say, will you be my mentor?
Well, it's a little more nuanced than that. Start by looking within your own network. Maybe there's a former colleague, a professor, or someone in your company you really admire.
Okay, so someone you already have a connection with.
Exactly. And then it's about building a genuine relationship. Maybe you chat at a work event or comment on their LinkedIn posts.
So you get on their radar.
Right. And once you've established a rapport, you can express your admiration for their work and ask if they'd be open to sharing their insights with you.
But mentorship isn't just about taking, right? You have to give back, too.
Absolutely. A good mentorship is a two-way street. Be prepared to ask thoughtful questions, be open to feedback, and show your appreciation for their time.
So it's a mutually beneficial relationship. Now, what about sponsorship? How is that different from mentorship?
Good question. While a mentor guides and supports you, A sponsor actively advocates for your advancement within the company.
Oh, wow. So it's like having someone in your corner who's not just cheering you on, but actually opening doors for you.
Exactly. Both mentorship and sponsorship are super valuable, but they serve different purposes.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've got mentors and sponsors on our team. Now, how do we stay ahead of the curve? It feels like the skills are in demand today could be totally irrelevant tomorrow.
That's the challenge, right?
Yeah.
The corporate world is constantly changing, so you have to be constantly learning and evolving too.
So how do we do that? Where do we even start?
Stay informed about what's happening in your industry. Read industry publications, go to conferences, listen to podcasts, and then take action. Identify the skills that are in demand and find ways to develop them.
So take online courses, get certifications, maybe even volunteer for projects that stretch your skills.
Exactly. And if you're feeling stuck in your current role, don't be afraid to get creative. Maybe there's a new software program you can learn or a skill you can teach yourself.
So it's about taking ownership of your own development. Don't wait for someone to hand you opportunities. Go out and create them.
You got it. And speaking of creating opportunities, what about those times when you're feeling, lost or unsure about your career path?
Oh yeah, that quarter-life crisis feeling.
Totally. It's completely normal to feel that way sometimes. The key is to use those feelings as an opportunity for self-reflection.
Okay, so you acknowledge the feeling, but then what?
Ask yourself some big questions. What are your passions, your values, your strengths? What kind of work environment makes you feel energized?
Wow, those are some deep questions.
Right. The better you understand yourself and what you want, the easier it will be to make decisions that align with your goals. And don't be afraid to seek guidance from a career coach, a mentor, or even just a trusted friend.
Sometimes an outside perspective can really help. Okay, now let's talk about something that's a bit of a sensitive topic. Ageism. It's a reality in the corporate world, unfortunately.
It is, and it's something we need to address head on.
So how do you combat those age-related biases, whether people think you're too young or too old?
Focus on your skills and experience. When you're writing your resume or cover letter, showcase your accomplishments and how they directly relate to the job requirements.
So it's about highlighting what you bring to the table, regardless of your age.
Exactly. And if age comes up in an interview, address it directly and confidently. Reiterate your experience, your commitment to learning, your ability to work with people of all ages.
So it's about turning those potential weaknesses into strengths.
You got it. And don't forget about career gaps. Those can be tricky too.
Yeah, whether it's for family, travel, or just taking some time off, it can feel like you have to apologize for those gaps on your resume.
Right, but you don't. It's all about framing those experiences in a positive light. Highlight the transferable skills you gained.
Like time management, organization, communication, even emotional intelligence.
Exactly. So don't be afraid to talk about those experiences in your interviews. Explain how they've made you a more well-rounded and adaptable individual.
Love that. Now, what about career changes? It seems like more and more people are switching careers these days.
It's definitely a growing trend. People are realizing that it's okay to pivot and pursue something new.
So what's the key to making a successful career change?
Research, networking, and a willingness to step outside your comfort zone.
Okay, break that down for me.
First, research your desired field like it's your new hobby. Figure out the required skills, typical career paths, industry trends. Then, start networking with people in that field. Go to events, join online communities, ask for informational interviews.
It's all about gathering information and building connections.
Exactly. And to bridge the skills gap, you might need to take courses, attend workshops, or even volunteer to gain relevant experience.
Okay, so we've talked about office politics, mentorship, upskilling, ageism, even career changes. Now let's talk about something that's completely changing the way we work. Remote work and the gig economy.
Oh yeah, those are game changers for sure.
So what are some things to consider if you're thinking about going remote or freelancing?
Well, you have to be incredibly self-motivated and organized. You're your own boss, so you need to manage your time effectively, set boundaries, and meet deadlines.
So self-discipline is key.
Absolutely. And it helps to have a dedicated workspace, but it's not always essential. The important thing is to have a place where you can focus and be productive. And of course, you need reliable internet.
Right, can't forget about that. But what about the social aspect? I'd miss those water cooler chats and the camaraderie of being in an office.
I get it. That's a common concern. But there are ways to stay connected. Make an effort to chat with colleagues through video calls, instant messaging, or online communities.
So be proactive about maintaining those connections.
Yes, and if possible, Try to schedule in-person meetups or co-working sessions every now and then.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, the financial side of freelancing, that can be a bit daunting.
It can be. You're responsible for everything. Invoicing, taxes, finding clients.
Any tips for staying afloat in that world?
Make sure you have a good understanding of your finances and be comfortable with some level of uncertainty. Freelance income can fluctuate, so it's important to be prepared for that.
So be financially savvy and have a plan.
Exactly.
Wow, we've covered so much ground in this part of our deep dive. I feel like we've really unpacked the realities of navigating the corporate world, from office dynamics to the rise of remote work.
And we've barely scratched the surface. There's always more to learn and explore.
That's the beauty of it, right? It's a continuous journey. But I think we've given our listeners a solid foundation to build upon.
I hope so. We've shared insights from cracking the corporate code to help people not just survive, but thrive in their careers.
And speaking of thriving, let's wrap up this epic deep dive by talking about something that's often overlooked: work-life balance and taking care of our mental well-being.
You know, it's so easy to get caught up in the hustle and forget to take care of ourselves.
Totally. But neglecting our well-being, that's a recipe for burnout. So how do we find that elusive balance between crushing it at work and having a life outside the office?
Boundaries are key. Set clear working hours and stick to them as much as possible. When you're off work, be off work. Put away the phone, close the laptop, and do something that brings you joy.
Easier said than done, right? Especially in today's always-on world.
It's definitely a challenge. But if you're feeling overwhelmed, don't suffer in silence. Talk to your manager, your team, or HR. A lot of companies are starting to offer resources like flexible work arrangements or mental health benefits.
It's good to know those resources are out there. And don't forget about your personal support system too. Friends, family, mentors. Those connections are so important for our well-being.
Absolutely. Make time for the people who matter most. They'll be there to celebrate your wins and support you through the tough times.
So build a strong community, both inside and outside of work.
Yes. And remember to celebrate your wins, big and small. Success isn't a destination, it's a journey.
I love that. It's about continuous growth, learning, and evolution.
Exactly. The corporate world is constantly changing, so you got to be adaptable and embrace a growth mindset.
I think we've officially cracked the code. We've explored strategies for navigating the job market, building a strong personal brand, acing interviews, and even tackling those tricky office dynamics.
And we've talked about the importance of work-life balance, mental well-being, and continuous learning.
It's been an incredible journey.
I agree. And I hope our listeners feel empowered to create careers and lives that they truly love.
That's what it's all about. So before we wrap up, any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
Invest in your personal brand, build genuine connections, tailor your resume and cover letter for each job, prepare thoroughly for interviews, and never stop learning.
Amazing advice. And remember, cracking the corporate code isn't about shortcuts. It's about understanding the game, developing your skills, and approaching your career with purpose and intention.
And most importantly, find joy in the journey.
That's the perfect note to end on. So as you navigate the corporate world, stay curious, stay connected, and never stop learning. And who knows, maybe we'll cross paths at a networking event or industry conference someday.
That would be fantastic. Until then, best of luck on your journey.
You've got this. That's a wrap for this deep dive into cracking the corporate code. Thanks for joining us on this epic adventure. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive into a fascinating topic. Until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep cracking those codes. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into cracking the corporate code. We've covered a ton of ground, from landing the job to navigating office politics and even making a career change.
It's been quite a journey.
But before we wrap up, I think it's important to talk about something that often gets overlooked: work-life balance and taking care of our mental health.
Oh, absolutely. That's so important, especially in today's world.
It's so easy to get caught up in the hustle and grind and forget to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, you can end up feeling burned out and stressed.
Exactly. So how do we strike that balance? How do we crush it at work without sacrificing our well-being?
Well, cracking the corporate code talks a lot about boundaries, setting those clear boundaries between work and personal life.
Okay, so like what? Not checking emails after a certain time?
That's a great start. Define your working hours and stick to them as much as possible.
So like when you're off work, you're really off?
Yes. Disconnect, recharge, do things you enjoy.
I like that. But easier said than done, right? I mean, work can be demanding.
It definitely can be.
Right.
But if you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed, don't be afraid to speak up. Talk to your manager or your HR representative.
Right, they're there to help.
Exactly. A lot of companies are becoming more aware of the importance of employee well-being and offering resources like flexible work arrangements or mental health benefits.
That's good to know. And of course, your personal support system is crucial too.
Well, for sure. Friends, family, mentors, those connections are so valuable for our mental health and well-being.
It's all about surrounding yourself with people who support you and lift you up.
Exactly. And don't forget to celebrate your wins, both big and small.
Celebrate those wins, I like that. It's easy to get caught up in the next goal, the next achievement, and forget to appreciate how far we've come.
Exactly. Success is a journey, not a destination.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired. I think we've officially cracked the corporate code, wouldn't you say?
I think we have. We've explored strategies for navigating the job market, building your personal brand, acing those interviews, even tackling office politics and staying sane in the process.
And we've emphasized the importance of continuous learning, finding mentors, and taking care of our mental health.
Because at the end of the day, it's not just about having a job. It's about creating a fulfilling and meaningful career.
And a life that you love.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into cracking the corporate code, I want to leave our listeners with a few key takeaways. Invest in your personal brand, build genuine connections, tailor your resume for each job, prepare like crazy for those interviews, and never, ever stop learning.
And remember, finding a job and building a career, it's a journey, not a sprint. There will be ups and downs, challenges and triumphs.
But with the right mindset, the right strategies, and a supportive network, you can achieve anything you set your mind to.
I completely agree.
So to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this epic adventure. We hope you feel empowered and inspired to create a career and a life that you truly love.
And remember, you've got this.
That's a wrap for this episode of The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive into a fascinating topic. Until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep cracking those codes.